What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Tide Talk. It's Wednesday, August 28th, and we're back in the away end to preview RIFC's upcoming home match versus Birmingham. So cozy up, crack a bear. There we go. And let's dive into this one. Just a reminder, each episode of Tide Talk is available on YouTube, and if you're watching now, please take a second to subscribe to our channel and click the like button on this video. You can also find us on your favorite podcast applications like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And if you listen on one of those, we'd really appreciate it if you took a minute to leave us a 5-star rating and a short review, as it helps more people find our podcast. If you're not already using the Club Collector app, click the link in this episode description and get on that site and go into the code Tide Talk, all one word, to get a free pack added to your collection today. I'm your host, Matt, and I've got my bald-headed brethren, Ryan, back after Sunday night off. Andrew filled in quite admirably, did a great job. Ryan, how was Chicago? How you doing, my friend?
It's good. It was going well until I saw how amazing Quadros was on the show on Sunday. I was a little nervous for my seat. I'm just happy you got invited back,
Quadros killed it. He did a good job. We're also joined by Kaylor from the Hammering Down podcast and the USL show, making his second ever Tide Talk cap. Kaylor, how's it going, man?
Hey, doing really well. Always down to chat some soccer. Always excites me. So always fun to sit down with you guys.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to say a thank you to you. I know you hopped in the chat while we were doing our first ever live show at Providence Brewing. I know you're a big fan of the live show. Super cool to do. Such a different experience. We love doing it. So, any pointers on the live show? Anything we got to do to really drive that home?
The few times that I was able to go to a bar and stuff like that to do a live show before, never be afraid to work the crowd a little bit, but also don't forget about the live stream a little bit, because you can always say into the microphone, we have something from the chat that was very interesting. This is a good point. And then the people who are there are like, oh, there's a chat, subscribe. There we go. And then go from there. Don't be afraid to work both crowds.
Awesome. Definitely like that. Appreciate that. Since the last time we talked, you've done a really cool live show too, and you've had some different things going on. So talk to us about Hammering Down, the USL show, and everything you've got going on.
So I didn't get to go to that live show, unfortunately, because thank you, Delta. Actually, the Birmingham Legion gave me a jersey that says #1 Delta fan, because of course they did. So basically, we had a live show out in Oakland. We were in attendance for Oakland versus Sacramento, the one that was on CBS, supposed to be on CBS. And it was super cool. I was at home. Well, I was actually in a coffee shop producing the entire live show. And then, John and Phil were out in Oakland, and we got live in-person interviews that were happening pre and post game. We had a bunch of people just kind of show up. Like, we had 2 players for Oakland just kind of wander over to the set and talk. And
Blanchett wasn't one of them, was he? Because his name is a swear word around these parts. All right, cool.
That's Blanchett is one of the funniest goalkeepers I've ever talked to. So okay, one of my favorite things to do. So I get to go on the field, take videos, take pictures, and I'm obsessed with goalkeeping. That's what I love. And so I go and I film every single warm-up. And a couple years ago, maybe it was last year. Yeah, it was last year. He was warming up, and he was looking awesome. He was looking great, and he was having a great year. And so I looked at him and I said, Paul, hey man, you're having a great season. Super proud of you. And this was right after he sliced a ball, and he sat there and he was like, good players don't effing slice balls. I'm paid to kick balls for an effing living. I effing suck. And then hits his smelling salts. And I was like, here we go. I'm all in on Paul Blanchett. I understand that you guys have beef with him with how the last game ended with Oakland. I'm so in on Paul Blanchett. With him to just cuss himself out when I think he had saved at that point 10 goals above average to that point, leading the lead by like 7. And then for him just to hit a smelling salt right afterward, I was in on him.
Yeah, the smelling salt really that just took him up a little bit of a notch for me. Still very low in my book, but
it's a different side. It's a different side of things.
Yeah, but the the Oakland experience was awesome. I wish I could have experienced it, but honestly, the feedback that we got from it and, how people reacted to it made it worth it. I'm glad that I was able to do the groundwork for those guys to get there. And would I've loved to have been there and not spend 40 hours in the Atlanta airport? Absolutely. But for anybody who's listening, if you're ever in the Atlanta airport, Terminal E, big windows, lots of space to sleep. It's great.
Hopefully,
Very
you got some
nice.
Chick-fil-A as well.
I don't think they had a Chick-fil-A where I was near. There was definitely a Chick-fil-A there, but it was never in the ones near us. I don't know.
Fair.
the airport.
Any plans to get a live show at Tidewater next year? The opening of the new stadium?
It's been discussed.
Okay.
The issue is flying to Providence.
Sure.
It's not easy to fly to Providence, but because that and Spokane has been discussed a few times. Detroit,
Cool.
Charleston, Louisville, all been discussed. A lot of those are drivable for me, so I don't have to rely on airlines. But Rhode Island's definitely been talked about.
Awesome. Cool. Good to hear. You heard it here first on Live Talk.
Talk. All right, cool. So pivoting to Birmingham and their season so far.
No,
So
we don't have to do that.
I mean,
no.
well, the first thing is pretty nice. I mean, Birmingham currently sit in sixth, 2 places above RIFC on 35 points. They are 1 point ahead of RIFC. Since our last match, which I will remind the audience saw RIFC win 3-1. Legion have been a bit up and down, 2 wins, 2 draws, and 2 losses. The 2 losses have been their last 2 matches where the Legion have failed to score, unfortunately. So I guess since we last talked to you, or I wasn't here for it, I was listening. I was actually trying to get in the comment section. But how has things been going? What's your take on the Legion as of late?
It's the same take I had last time we talked, which was inconsistent, injury ridden, and the new one is the lack of to try new things. We have been doing the thing where we start Pino up top, and I just don't think it works. I understand he's good for a goal and he can do it and he can jump out of the building and do all that kind of stuff. Legion try to beat you via the long ball. They don't like to admit that. They don't want to tell you that they'll try to beat you over the long ball because they don't think that they're doing that. But all they do is long balls. And there's Taborteka Preston, who is fast as lightning and super technical. So it's more or less just a lack of willing to try new things when you have only put 3 shots on target in 2 matches, and all 3 of those, well, I'm sorry, they've had 5 shots on target in the last 2 matches, but only 3 of those inside the box. And one of those isn't, and it was just basically really just speculative chances, nothing real.
Kaylor, would you say that an
what's
outside the box shot is a lower percentile chance to score?
Honestly,
I get a lot of heat from the comment section for saying crazy things like that. So,
Kaylor, before you answer that, I want to hop in and I want to preface that with it's totally fine if it's Clay Holstad, though, right?
Well, here's what I'll say. I think that it depends who your shooter is. Let's look at last year. If I'm sure there's a lot of people who are Premier League fans. If you want to look at chances taken, Arsenal last year or 2 years ago when they were really running things, they were taking shots from 35, 20, 25 yards out. And not only were they putting them on shot or on net, not only were they, scoring these chances, they were forcing defenses to respect the shot. They would step up. They would see someone step up. They would play a man through the middle for the long ball. Yes, it is literally a lower percentage chance if you look at XG. But when you look at what chances actually get created from those shot creations, if they are dangerous, a la Clay Holstad, and if you actually look at the last Legion game, that is what really happened. Is Clay Holstad didn't really take many shots. I don't think he took one, but what happened was every time he was on anytime he was on the ball, defenses would come to him and he would play someone through. He would play someone through. He would get to somebody else. Legion were caught in a bad situation and it would lead to a shot or a goal. That's what happened on a lot of those. And so while the actual chance to score is very low, the chances that can be created from a real danger outside the box makes every other shot percentage go up.
makes you have to respect it.
Yeah.
Yep. And also, as an Arsenal fan, that was music to my ears. So thank you.
It's like nails on the chalkboard. Kaylor teaches, I teach. It was my first week of school this week, so it was absolutely brutal to listen to that part of it. But I'll respect that, Kaylor. It's okay.
I mean, I'm a Palace fan. I don't like Arsenal winning. I just
You're gonna like Eddie Nketiah, I'll tell you that much.
well.
You'll have a good time with Evan in the chat, and we'll leave it at that. But I know last time you came on, we do our segment, the good, bad, and the ugly, and you did it on your season so far. So let's get your good, bad, and ugly on what's going on since our two teams have last met.
Yeah, the good is honestly the training facility has been opened up, and the other good is that Matthew Corcoran is back. He is back and playing. He is our 18-year-old who's been with us since he was 15, and we're about to sell him for a lot of money, and we're just glad that he's back and healthy. The bad, obviously, has been just kind of the form, right? The form hasn't been good. And it's just not even just the fact that we're losing, but against Detroit, we only had 3 shots total, none of them on target. And then last one, we had good chances against Pittsburgh, didn't finish them. The ugly is the Legion fan base right now. And it's the fact that there is a solid percentage of people that are saying they won't buy season tickets unless the coach is fired. Ooh. And there has been a lot of Tommy Sohn hate since year 2, if we're being honest. But this is the hottest it's been. And I think it's the most ill-placed because I think this is the best coaching job he has ever done. But on the same side, he is... I mean, he's not willing to change things. And this is a performance-based...
That's tough, yeah.
...thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say your comment about not wanting to change. I think that's almost one of those things that really sticks out in fans' minds, especially when they start to turn on somebody. Is like, again, we're doing this again, we're doing this again, we're doing this again, and I think that will drive people crazy. Because at least if you're out there trying crazy things, it's like, well, at least he's trying something, and it almost buys you time, which it might not be fair either. Because
we had fans ready to cave on Kano after week 4, right?
Yeah, one of them is in the chat.
So, like Kaylor said, it's a result-oriented business. And, I think a lot of newer fans to the USL might have watched the Premier League, or, that might have been like one of their first tastes of big soccer. And they see that a manager gets sacked after 3 or 4 games. So they think it's kind of the norm. But I think at this level with the budgets and things, like, you cannot afford to pay 2 managers.
Well, it's also hard, especially because with the Birmingham injury issues too. It's always hard to peel that away from the coaching job versus the luck, and it's all intertwined.
Well, I mean, talking about paying 2 managers, I don't think this is too big of, and we said this on the USL show before. I mean, teams like Hartford, laugh at Hartford. They're paying so much money in fired coaches,
right?
Like Hartford is kind of the Texas A&M of money to fire coaches right now. Like last time I heard the number, this was last year, they were approaching 10 million in fired coaches alone.
Oof. It's a whole lot of hot dog nights.
So with that, some teams can't afford it. I think that the thing is that you've had a coach for 6 years. And he's doing one of the best just coaching jobs he's done this year with one of the most depleted rosters he's ever had. That's impressive. I don't think that's worth firing over. You still have to make chances. You still have to make changes. You still have to make changes. That said, I forgot about a Rhode Island person that's in Birmingham that other way around. Sorry. A person in Rhode Island who's from Birmingham. I totally forgot Marcus Ugarte was your assistant coach, where he was the academy director and former midfielder for the Birmingham Legion. So add that one to the list.
There we go. and dare I say, last time you came on, you were totally Kaylor Stradamus, and you predicted that match to an absolute T ahead of time. I know, much to your own demise due to the facial expressions there, but I think your insights were absolutely spot on for that one. But as Tyler says in the chat, glad to see finally Hartford leads the league in something.
Well, they don't lead the league. They don't lead the league in that. There are other teams that owe more.
Oh, really? Oh, all right.
Oh, yeah.
That's a tough pill to swallow.
Well, they'll have to remove the star again on their jersey.
Sad.
Kaylor, I guess just to kind of go a little deeper on this too, because I think this is a very fascinating conversation and something that I think a lot of fan bases might struggle with as time goes on. But so 6 years, that's a pretty long amount of time. And is there any concern that the ideas might be getting stale or things like that, or he lost the locker room at all? Like, does it feel like the players are still playing for him?
Players came to Birmingham to play for Tommy, but also Kano as well. Like guys like Johnny Dean, who's in MLS now, came to Birmingham literally because of Kano Smith, because Kano was down in Orlando. That's where Johnny was playing. But like people still come to Birmingham to play for Tommy, and they've lost players before, but Legion have a very strict "don't be a jerk" policy. So like. It's one of those things that I think that the players are playing for him, but there has definitely been a sense of complacency. And this is not coming from anything I'm hearing in the locker room. And even if I was, I wouldn't put that out in the ether.
Sure.
But, there's been a sense of complacency because the team has been so riddled with injuries, because there is not a striker on the team. Like, there's not. And so guys know that if they're starting at the 9, they're not getting subbed off. Guys who are playing center back, well, guess what? If one of them's hurt, or one of them, like Alex Cronale, just had his first kid. Fanuel Kavita his girlfriend is pregnant with twins right now, and AJ Patterson has a young child as well. A kid gets sick, there's not another center back option. And this team right now has no options anywhere, which means no one's going to lose their job. No one's in danger of losing their job, which I feel like
Kaylor, one other piece I'd like to ask you, just in thinking back to RIFC's last match versus Loudon and Ryan Martin's in his 7th season over there too. And us obviously being new to the USL, is a longer coaching tenure kind of the norm for this league, or is it kind of hit or miss based on club?
Hit or miss based on club, honestly, because you have Hartford that goes through injuries like, well, we know, or goes through coaches like how it is. Mark Briggs has been with Sacramento for a long time. Danny Cruz has been there for a long time, only after Hackworth left to go MLS, and after Danny Cruz went to MLS and stuff like that. And then you have Bob Lilly, who is the longest tenure coach in the U.S. and the winningest coach in U.S. soccer history. Bob Lilly's been there forever. As far as I understand, Tommy Sohn is the 2nd longest tenured coach in the USL, only behind Lilly. And it's only by, I think, a year, because the Rhinos went away before he took over Pittsburgh. You see which teams are quick to panic and which teams feel like they have a long-term vision. San Antonio stuck with their coach, Darren Powell, for a long time in the USL, 4 years, I believe. And then he gets fired. A couple years later, Marcina comes in, wins a championship. And I mean, Powell wasn't missing the playoffs, but they just weren't winning it. And so they eventually moved on, much to the chagrin of half the fan base, because they didn't think it was working. I think that you just kind of depends on how bullish and how panicky your club is.
That's fair.
It's also interesting too when you pair like that potential long-term vision and long-term tenure with like the coach and potentially GM, and sometimes the same person in some places like Rhode Island, with kind of the way that player contracts work in the USL a lot of the time, where it's like a 1+1 a lot, maybe a couple of long-term contracts. So that's really fascinating to kind of see how teams can buy into that vision on the high level and then execute it, on that year-to-year basis.
Yeah, I just think that whenever you see some of these clubs that you talk about, those 1-1s, I think that for the beginning of almost every club, you're going to be built on 1-1s because you have no idea what your culture actually is. Everybody thinks they do, and then they get in the middle of it and they're like, oh God, that sucked. And so I feel like eventually around year 3 is when you start getting those 2 and 1s. Start getting the 2s. I feel like year 3 is when you really start getting it. Now, don't get me wrong, with Rhode Island and how long Kano has been in the USL, how Marcus has been around the USL, Parkhurst knows his way around the lower league, fold, basically. I think that Rhode Island may start opening up some proper multi-year contracts, really start doing those this year, especially as the stadium is being opened up. You need to have long-term guys to show up to the stadium that fans can get invested in. They seem like a smart enough organization to start jumping on that boat early, especially as the league is starting to trend in that direction anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has been really interesting. Of the cup, there's only a handful of players that we know are on more of those longer term deals. I think they speak a lot to like who Kano sees both on the pitch and off the pitch of players he wants around. JJ Williams, Koke Vegas, like those are the 2 big mainstays. I think Chico ended up having one as well. But you could see those are 2 guys that Kano knows almost personally with JJ. Koke has a great reputation, and to make that your captain and one of your leaders and then sign them long term, I think. Yeah, it makes total sense. So yeah, that's really cool insight. Cool. So I think we asked you this last time just to see if there's any updates here, but for those of you who watched the match, you probably will remember Kaylor bringing up the 3 players to watch, as well as a super sub. Any changes there over the past 6 matches?
We'll find out if he is going to be the super sub, but I feel like the player you got to watch for is Matthew Corcoran. I mean, the kid is legit just different gravy, man. Like, I've been watching the USL for a long time. I have not seen someone like Matthew Corcoran. Like, you're going to see
him.
This
was the 18-year-old from your academy?
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
So not our academy. We got him from Dallas when they released him. And I'll be brutally honest with you. I will be stunned if he goes less for $500,000. I'm expecting more of a full $1 million for him. Like, he is going to be top dollar. He is different gravy.
Have you heard any sources of where he's going, or is there any prediction to like where you see him playing at the next level?
There's been conversations of Portugal, but I am leaning more of him going somewhere like Germany. That seems more of a likely landing spot for him. Several French teams keep going on again on some of these teams or some of these players, but I suspect more Portugal, Germany. Matthew Corcoran, he might be your super sub. I don't know. Like, it just depends on how many minutes he plays, but I feel like he absolutely is a player to watch. In terms of other players on the pitch, I think that you're going to look at a guy like Famuel Kavita, Alex Cornale. I understand that's 2 people, but for different reasons. Famuel Kavita is one of the best center backs in the league. He's strong as a bull. He's going to be one of the few players in this league that can truly out-muscle JJ Williams, and I say that because I've seen it in training. He's one of the few people that can stop a D1 linebacker, right? That's just kind of who he is. Alex Cornale,
if any fan base is going to say that, it's definitely the Legion.
Yeah. And then Alex Cornale plays probably the best pinged ball out of any center back, and I would say that he plays a better pinged ball than a lot of midfielders in the USL. He can really spray it around, and he's a really good distributing player. The last one I think is going to be Tabor Teka Preston. I think that he is going to be the technical player that can who's just going to shoot. He's infuriating because he's going to take a shot from the corner flag, all the way from the corner flag, and it's going to somehow go behind him and hit a small child. And then later on in the game, less than 5 minutes later, he's going to take a shot from the midway line and force an incredible save out of keeper. And you're just like, how are you the same person? Mm-hmm. He's always going to pull up. He's always going to shoot. You can't get the ball off his feet because he's just that technical. He's a good time to watch. He's either going to score a banger or kill a child. There's no in between.
You've been warned if you're in section 13 for when they're shooting at our end this match.
Hopefully we get the march in there early when they're warming up. We like to heckle the players when they miss high and wide, so we'll have to wear helmets for that one. It sounds like.
We can ask the team if they can bring the construction helmets. It'll be great. Have the branding on it. It's beautiful.
I know you kind of touched on it with Corcoran as being a potential sub, but anyone else that can come off the bench and be a super sub and influence that game a little later on.
Again, Preston, because I don't know where he's going to start.
Sure.
I don't know if he's going to start or not. Prosper Kasim, he's always going to be my 1A of he's going to take a shot from the top of the box with his left foot because you're going to give him an inch, and it's
you call that spot on. You called that spot on last game. He scored in the 50th minute, and I think it was exactly how you just talked about it and drew it up to a T. That's what he did.
It is truly
so
like
Matt texted me immediately when that happened. He was like, Kaylor.
Yeah, I did.
Someone Edwin puts in Rita Zaire. I don't know why Legion brought him in. It felt like a really dumb decision. He doesn't fit in this team. He's on loan. He's going to get minutes. I think he's going to be mostly irrelevant. And that sounds so mean, but it has nothing to do with him. He just doesn't fit what this Legion team needs. This team didn't need another midfielder. It needed a striker, someone with a number 9 that can breathe. That's all I need.
Ewan responded with, that boy has a wicked shot, though, Kaylor.
He does have a wicked shot if he can ever shoot, but he's playing so deep that he's not getting in positions. And Kobe Hernandez Foster should be the free kick taker. He's the best free kick taker this team has ever had. I think that Rita, that's where he really shines, is the free kick, and I think Kobe's a better free kick taker than him, just outright.
All right. So next up, as far as we talked to you about stadium atmosphere last time, but how's the traveling support for Legion? Do you know anyone making the trip up to Rhode Island?
No one's, I don't think, making the trip for this one, unless you consider Clay Holstad's family a trip from Birmingham, but like not Legion fans. But I don't think anybody is making this one. That I looked into it and it was just so expensive. Also,
do you guys have Breeze doesn't fly out anywhere?
I say we have to make a call into Breeze.
So I think Susan says she's done it before, but I don't think it'll be a Breeze. I think that there's not going to be much, and this is where I got to be brutally honest. College football starts this week.
Fair.
It's not. No, like people are not missing out. Bama, Auburn, UAB, Miss State, whatever. They're not missing that to go to Rhode Island. I think like Rhode Island seems like a wonderful place, but it's not their sanctuary.
And it's not the new stadium, so we'll allow it for this year. That's totally fine. I'll also follow up with a question that Susan put in the chat. Susan is our Rhode Island Alabama transplant. So someone being from Alabama, how does it feel walking into that stadium, knowing all the people who have stepped foot on that field? And I know you're a historian of the game and really like it, so perfect person to answer this one.
So we're not at Legion Field, but we played at Legion Field one time, and it was really cool. Like there's been so many just greats between your Bear Bryants. You've had Jern Hare coach on that field. You had Peyton Manning play on that field. You had the U.S. men's national team play there for the Olympics. You had the U.S. women's national team play there. It's so cool. And the old gray lady, it stands tall despite its own best efforts. The Legion Field is somewhere that is just absolutely leaves me stunned. That said, I got a chance to walk the field at Rickwood Field, which is not far away. And let me tell you, just speechless about Rickwood Field. So absolutely speechless.
That's pretty cool. Ryan, I know you also have another announcement from Susan that you want to talk about.
I do. So for those of you watching, if you do not have tickets to this match, Susan has been very generous and is able to donate 4 tickets to the match this Saturday. Come see the Birmingham Legion. Come to Burn Stadium this week. We will post on our socials on how to enter that contest. But yeah, thank you, Susan. And we're super excited to give away these tickets and get some people out to the match. So stay tuned there.
Hint, if you're not already following Tide Talk RI on Instagram, that would be the place to check it out. It'll be on there. So thank you again, Susan. We appreciate you. We appreciate you doing that. And hopefully someone who hasn't gotten to come to a game can check it out this weekend, which would be absolutely awesome.
Perfect. Yeah. So as we do wind towards this match, Kaylor, I think you nailed this last time. But so looking at the keys to the matchup, if Birmingham is going to take their not breeze flight home with 3 points, how do we think the game's going to play out? And then vice versa, if Rhode Island's going to keep 3 points in Rhode Island.
I think that if Legion are going to walk out with 3 points, I think that you're going to be looking at Derek Dotson returning to right back. I think that you're going to have Preston and Prosper on the pitch together to start the game. Whether that means Pino goes to the bench or you are working with 2 wingers between Preston and Prosper, I don't think that fully matters. I think that that is going to be the way that's going to work. I think that you're going to have to take shots anywhere and everywhere. I think that you're going to see the inverted version if they were to play with those 2, where you have Prosper and you have Preston both taking shots on net and then playing through someone like an Enzo or a Pino, whoever is playing, or being able to put in crosses to Pino or whomever is there. I think that that's unlikely to happen. I don't think that is what's going to happen because we talked about the unwillingness to change. But I think if you're going to get 3 points from a Rhode Island
Yikes.
team. It's been a long day, guys. It's a long day. Kick me off. But a Rhode Island team that is going to score 2-3 goals. That's the only way. That's going to be the only way. That's going to be the only way for Legion is if they can score 3 or 4 themselves.
Interesting take there. We'll let that one comment slip for a bit. I did post in the chat, and I got it on screen. Post your score predictions in the chat. Before we go to the score predictions, Kaylor, I wanted to go back to a point that Tyler had made in the chat. Part of what I liked early about Kano was that he was coming from a seemingly well-established coaching tree. And I know last time we had you on, you spoke very highly, spoke very well of Kano, and you know how much you loved his time at Birmingham. But kind of talk about his coaching, style from what you've seen and how it's developed and how you see him progressing. And can he be one of the top tier managers in this league?
Could I? And I do think so. I wanted Kano to take the head coaching job in Birmingham outright. I wanted Tommy Sohn to move up to be a director of football and have Kano be the coach, because the way that the coaching system worked in Birmingham, all 3 coaches, the 2 assistant coach and the head coach, kind of took on equal duties. It was 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Like, it wasn't like one was bigger than the other. Really, Tommy just made the in-game decisions. And even then, Kano had a big hand in that. I really do think Kano has the potential. I think when you look at who is involved with Kano, right, you're looking at not only Tommy Sohn, who is the all-time winningest person in the U.S. Open Cup with 4 or 5 U.S. Open Cup titles to his name, 2 or 3 as a coach, others as a player. I think he has the highest winning percentage in the U.S. Open Cup. He's gotten these jobs for a reason. He did his coaching badges with Nate Miller, and you can see that influence. I mean, look at the players you guys signed. And not on top of that, he also did at the same time as some guy named Wilfred Nancy, if you follow MLS at all, who is easily the best coach in MLS right now. I think that when you look at the resources that he has around him in terms of people he can call right now, he has it. When you look at who he has worked under, not only was he under Tommy Sohn, he also was an assistant coach down in Orlando Pride. And so he understands what it's like to be working with different kinds of groups. He didn't just stay with the core in Birmingham. He worked with the women's team. He knows what that's like. I think where I've seen Kano really change from when he was here is the idea of being counterattacking has fully entered his lexicon, where he is kind of going full San Diego Loyal a little bit. And you can see,
and there's a lot of San Diego Loyal front office crossover with Rhode Island, so that makes sense.
Yeah. And so you see the defensive rigidity how rigid that defense stays is very Tommy Sohn. But when you look at how are we going to go? How are we going to counterattack? It's so San Diego, and they're doing it better than San Diego ever did. And I think it's impressive. I think Cano is going to be a coach for a long, long time. I cannot say enough amazing things about Cano Smith.
That's awesome to hear. I think it's also really interesting too that, when we bring in players, it's always somebody that's kind of connected to them. We talked about JJ. You look at Zach Haraval. You look at players who have come into the squad, and it's people he knows, people he trusts, and there's definitely a premium that he places on that.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many people that wanted to work with Cano, and
Sure.
I get it. Like, he would talk to me, and like he would put little bugs in my ear of like, hey, think about writing this, think about talking about this. Yeah, sure, man. Anything for you, dude. I was ready to do it too. Like, sign me up. And like, there's a reason why Rhode Island has gotten the players that they did, and it's not just financial investment; it's the vision, and he's a part of it.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I've been very thankful for with Cano and very impressed by is his ability to change kind of the way that he wanted to play throughout the season. Because it seemed like we started with one vision, he adjusted based on like the way that it was results were going, as well as the players that he had available to him. So I've been very, very impressed with that, because I think that's one of the ways that a lot of coaches get in trouble is they have this one plan, they stick to it, and they will ride it out until the end of time, no matter what happens. And I've been just very impressed with him putting his ego, his thoughts aside, and figuring out the right way for this team to start picking up results.
I mean, he's the anti-Alan Marcina. Like, I mean, we've seen that with San Antonio. They don't change anything. They're trying to do the same thing that won them the title in 2022, and they don't have the same players, and they kind of stink now. And he's like, what if I kept doing it, though? And Cano, I mean, he's had to have his growing pains. He had the one comment that came, maybe it was after the Miami game, of basically, I made a mistake in man management. I screwed up. I cost us the game. And he came out and said it, and I was very impressed with that. But I also know that he is a guy who's willing to take those lumps. And it's just going to be one of those things of just like, hey, I screwed up and I made my mistake. And I do think that Rhode Island fans have to remember he is a first-year head coach.
Sure.
And
I think that's very under talked about.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Marcus Ugarte, who I do also speak very highly, I remember the kids in the academy absolutely loved him. And if the academy is something that Rhode Island wants to do, you have a ready-made academy director there with Marcos anyway. But Ugarte, there's a reason why he wanted to follow Cano, right? And despite it being a first-year head coach, but also Marcus just had the brain for it. So between those guys, they're both first-year assistant coaches, the first-year head coaches. There's going to be growing pains, but
absolutely,
Rhode Island had the roster to overcome growing pains because, the drawing, allegations are never going to go away, but they're not losing. And that's what matters. It sucks to draw. Baby. Like, it sucks to draw. It sucks to draw. It sucks to draw.
But those early draws, those early draws might get us into the playoffs, which is for an expansion team. What more can we really ask for, right?
I mean, I think there's only been 3 expansion teams in the championship era to make the playoffs in their first year. The League One, the only time that expansion teams made it was the first year of the league, and that doesn't count. That's cheating.
Sure.
Like, it's so hard to make it year one, especially in this new era of a second division, third division. For Rhode Island to be where they are, even if it means not making the playoffs, I think it was so successful.
Successful for a season, absolutely. So let's talk back to this match, and this match being a success, sure. And looking at score predictions. And we'll start in the chat. So we'll give you time to stew it over, Kaylor and Ryan. I've got mine already pegged out. Usually I don't do it a preemptive, but Tyler's got 2-1 tied. Nate's got 2-1 tied. Jason's got 1-1 to tie the tie record. I hear that. Susan's got a 3-2 Rhode Island win. Evans got a 4-0 RI win with all of his contingencies on JJ and whatnot. And, there's a lot to read there. But if you listen to the Call Corner on Monday, you can figure that out. If not, go back, watch that. I'm not going to entertain that anymore. Ewan's got 1-0 to RIFC. He says Hernandez, Foster, and Zouer are technical enough to withstand Rhode Island's press, but RIFC edges it. So we've got another one. Sarah's got 2-1 in there as well. And we've got Old Man Exo with a 3-2 win to the Tide. Love to see that one there. I'll give mine first since I was actually prepared. It was 3-1 last time out. Rhode Island's struggling in front of goal right now, but I do think you guys are also struggling in front of goal right now as well. So I'm going to take one goal off of that and go with the common 2-1 that I've also seen in the chat. And that was pre-planned. That's my prediction on there as well. So I'm going 2-1 Rhode Island.
Respect your lack of hedging so far.
I'm not going to hedge it at all. I'm not even going to guess at who scores those 2 goals. Yeah, that's it. I'm just going 2-1. So, Kaylor, Ryan, whoever, whatever one of you wants to hop in next and take that prediction, feel free to go for it.
I can go. I can see Kaylor still pondering it. So while neither team are in fantastic form, Legion are struggling to score, as you said. They have 8 less goals in RFC in total. They only have 5 in their last 5 matches. However, Legion have been much better on the road than at home. They are 3rd in the East on the road versus 11th at home. But stylistically, I think Rhode Island's press and the ability to win the long ball battle can edge this one. So Kaylor mentioned this earlier, which I thought was really funny because I had this written down, that Legion isn't a long ball team. Legion is 3rd in the league in accurate long balls per match, whereas Rhode Island is 5th. I do think we can take advantage of the fact that Legion have a bit of a lighter press than us. I think our press can kind of overcome that to win the field position. When I say light press, Legion are 24th in possession, won the final third, 23rd in tackles, 20th in interceptions, and 22nd in fouls. So with all that being said, drumroll please, I have it at 1-0 Rhode Island, which I absolutely despise, but I wrote it down and I'm going to stick to it. So 1-0 Rhode Island. I think it could be a really interesting match, and hopefully I actually could see it being a lot of big chances, but a lot of big chances missed, with hopefully Rhode Island getting on the edge of one.
All right.
I'm feeling like it's going to be 1-1 for this match, and it really does come down to Legion's away record, where in the last 10 games they've only lost once. And it doesn't happen a lot. Legion are just so much better away, and it's been a long time since they've lost on the road.
Why do you think that is?
Man, I really don't know. The best guess I have is that this is a team that has a lot of heels on it. There's a lot of they have a lot of players who are historically very good and have been in this league for a long time. And when you're very good in a league, you end up being not very liked. And I think they thrive off that kind of energy. They really enjoy it. I also just think that there's a bit of fans are sort of turning on the team at home. I don't mean booing them, but they're not fully backing them, and it's kind of hard to get up for that. And as much as we would love to say this is FIFA, this is FM, where they should just go out there and perform to their attributes. They're not. They're human beings. I think that heel part of them really gets to them, and they get really juiced up for it. And I think especially going to Rhode Island with all their friends and all their enemies across the way,
frenemies.
Yeah, it's going to be easier for them to get up for that. I think that this goalless streak is not going to continue. That said, I don't think they're going to blow open the doors by any stretch. I think 1-1 is going to be the safest pick for me. I think that if it's going to be a Rhode Island goal, it's kind of hard to ignore what Fuson is doing right now. After I thought that he was going to get dropped for our game.
Big fans over here.
I think it's going to be Fuson that ends up getting a goal on the Legion side. I don't know. Not a striker.
A late keeper in the box equalizer.
Oh, what I would give for that. What I would give for a keeper goal. We had a keeper assist back in 2020, and I still think about it all the time.
That's awesome. But yeah, so Kaylor, we definitely appreciate you, and as Susan says, we love Noah. We appreciate you taking the time to join us. Any final thoughts you want to have or share with us before we sign off?
Yeah, I mean, I do just love what you guys are doing. It's a lot of hard work. I believe you me,
Thank
I
you.
know. It's so hard to get off work and say I'm going to go sit down. And we appreciate all the stuff that you guys do. There's a lot of good podcasts out there, and you guys are absolutely up there with them. So I do, I see
Thank you.
that, and I really appreciate all y'all do. For Rhode Island, honestly, I think this is a team come playoffs. I do think Rhode Island makes the playoffs. I think they are going to be a team that is going to absolutely just ruin somebody's year in the playoffs. I don't think that Rhode Island's a team that's going to make a run to the Eastern Conference final, but I think they're going to knock out a big team along the way.
We have been Louisville's bogey team, so we'll continue to stop on that.
Keep bringing in even better players, man. It's not fair.
It's insane. It's insane.
I don't get it.
But you got a lot of love in the chat. Tyler says thank you, Kaylor. Susan says thank you, Kaylor. Jason says we appreciate you guys as well. Thank you. And Tyler also says love hearing from you. Enjoy your stuff.
Appreciate it, guys.
We appreciate you. Taking the time to spend some time with us. Ryan, what do you got for any final thoughts for us, my friend?
Yeah, I'm excited to be back at home. I feel like we haven't been there in a month, which is absolutely not true. Like the last time I said that, but yeah, really excited to get to watch the boys again. And yeah, Matt, I heard there's a special potential something coming out from Tide Talk the next day or so.
We have a very special Tide Talk special episode that might be coming out within the next 24 hours. So if you're not already subscribed on our YouTube, I would do that tonight watching this video. If you're listening to this podcast and it's Thursday morning, tonight's Wednesday, right? First week back to school.
Is officially Wednesday.
Yeah. You're listening to this on Thursday. Make sure you subscribe because there might be something hitting your feed a little bit later today that you might like and find very special as well. We think it's very special, so I hope you guys appreciate that as well. A first of its kind for Tide Talk, and really exciting to edge on. So make sure you check that out. Make sure you subscribe to all the socials. Like I said, the Instagram will have a ticket giveaway. Thank you to our good friend Susan. So check that out. But other than that, I think that'll wrap things up for this one. Just remember, Tide Talk is more than just a podcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook for daily social media content. Click that link in this episode description to follow all of our accounts. So, Kaylor, thank you again for joining. I know we say it a bunch of times, but we really appreciate it. We look at you as USL loyalty. So we love royalty. I'm sorry. We love having you on here. You got your second cap. So that was pretty great. Thank you again. We will be doing a few more live shows at Providence Brewing. So for those in the listening, make sure you check that out. We got a few more loaded up, and we got a big surprise with them by the end of the season. So make sure you check that out as well. But that'll wrap things up for this one. We'll see you next time. And as always, up the tide.
Up the tide.